Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the breakdown. I'm Tone. Thank you for joining me once again. It's been about a week, I think, since I've done a video, so sorry about that. Certainly got pretty busy. And if you've been following anything about what's been happening in Melbourne, that's for any of you Aussies that are watching this, and for any of you Americans that are watching this. Have you been keeping up with any of what's been happening here in Melbourne or not? I'm not sure, but I'm going to cover as much of it as I can. But look, this week's been pretty quiet compared to last week. Last week, the weekend sort of started off with a few protests going on, and I'm pretty sure that's what I was covering in the last video. The plan they were leading up to potentially doing something. Well, protesters went ahead and they did quite a lot, actually. There was a couple of days where they converged on the CBD of Melbourne, and the police weren't ready. I mean, I don't know what they were expecting. They were certainly calling for people not to go in and protest, and, well, it went ahead. And then, so the following day, the police obviously cordoned off portions of the CBD. So the protesters actually went and commandeered the Westgate Bridge. Now, I don't know if you saw any footage of that, but they were clambering all over the Westgate Bridge, in quotation marks, terrorising drivers and throwing things and carry on. Look, there's plenty of footage out there, and I'll let you go and have a look at what you can find. I haven't got any footage to share here, but those that really are wanting to know what's happened, they'll be able to go and make up their own mind based on what they see. Keep an open mind. Look at various sources for your information. That's all I'll say there. But what happened the following day? Well, I was up nice and early, probably done a couple of deliveries by that point, and I'm parked not that far away from home. The earth shook. We had an earthquake here in Melbourne, and it was felt in other parts of Australia as well. It was 5.9 was the measure. Now, it wasn't, the epicenter was not in Melbourne, but it was towards the northeast of Melbourne, a place called Mansfield, and it was about 10 kilometres under the ground, according to whoever was measuring those things. But I find I don't really accept coincidence. It just so happened that there was a lot of negative energy flowing through Melbourne, and I mean, there has been for so long, and it really sort of came to a head there last week. And just before, the potential for another protest was going to begin, we had that shake. Now, there was some protests going on after that point, but a lot less than what there was the preceding day. Now, I don't know what a lot of other people probably think about that. I'm a very spiritual person. If you know me, I believe in God, and I am going to put my neck out and say that I reckon it's highly possible that it won't be another 50 years before we have another shake. And I'm really hoping that we get another one, because then it's not just a once in a blue moon occurrence and it's a little bit more frequent, might just get a little bit more attention rather than just being referred to like on the radio that day and the following days after. It was just Mother Nature. Mother Nature was getting the credit. and it was seen as a random thing that just didn't really have anything to do with everything else that's going on here. I don't believe that. But, sometimes it's easier for the skeptics to just sort of palm it off and go, that's not related. And it was a nice distraction, but it was a bit scary, but it was a bit of a distraction from all the stuff that's going on, rather than open mind, looking at it and going, yeah, that's connected in some way. Now, I want to sort of move away from that. I want to talk about the protests for a moment, because what we've got going on over here is a whole bunch of extremes. And as I've shared on my channel since its inception, my goal is to help break things down. And I'm also a firm believer that when you've got a whole bunch of extremes going on, you got one extreme one way, another extreme the other way. The truth lies partway in between that. You'll find there's a middle ground where the truth lays. It's not at those extreme ends. Now, that's not always the case, but most times I find it to be true. So what we've got is, I guess we would say, the government's handling of what's going on here. Okay, so let's start at the very, very beginning and recognize that COVID-19 is a real illness. Okay. The problem is it's being treated to the extreme. So rather than recognizing that only predominantly vulnerable people fall prey to it, there are a select few who don't have pre-existing conditions that have got it and have suffered from it, and actually suffered badly from it. But that is by far the minority of cases. All right, now this information's easy for anyone to actually find and understand, but I'm just simplifying it for the sake of this video. So we've got a disease, a virus, that is only super virulent and super dangerous for the people that have pre-existing conditions. Only a very select few who were normal, healthy human beings have fallen prey to it. But it's being treated as if it's highly deadly and will wipe out a large population, percentage of the population. And that's rubbish. And we know it is rubbish, because the way it's been handled, if it was really as dangerous as what we've been told, it already would have done its job. Guaranteed. So we know that that's rubbish. So that's one extreme. Right? So, and then we've got the government's extreme handling of it. Okay? Now, we've got those that flat out reject that it's a thing. They say that it's a conspiracy, that it's not, it doesn't exist. Excuse me. It doesn't exist. So therefore, all of what the government's doing is useless and pointless, and, it's just about controlling people. And that's rubbish too, because we know that it is actually a real thing. And so you've got government well and truly overstepping their bounds, with a rubbish story. And we've got others that say that it's not a real thing and it doesn't exist. Both are rubbish. It is real, but it is nowhere near as serious as what we're being told. That's the truth. Then what we have is, peeling off from that issue, we've got extreme, and only a handful of extreme people who are going in and wanting to protest, but they're wanting to clash with police. Okay, but that's the minority. The majority of people who are going in to protest, and as I've said, Those protests are completely useless, in my opinion, and I think that it's well justified opinion because it's done nothing but make everything worse. And I said that would happen. So, but what we'll say about that is, um, you lump the people that are going in and doing the fighting with police and clashing with police are undermining any form of justifiable arguments that those that aren't clashing with police, the majority of people going in just wanting to be heard. So you've got media going to the extreme lengths of telling lies and absolute rubbish because the majority of people who were in there just to try to be heard. Now, as I said, that's useless because it's gotten hijacked, and the media then takes that hijacking and says, see, it's just a whole lot of rubbish, and they don't give credence to any of it, including it's against the law, apparently. It's not against the law, just to put it out there. It's emergency powers. It's not law. There's no legislation to say that they can't be in there. And, if we really wanted to look at it, the police are unable to issue fines for the people having been in the city there. That's something that's important to understand. Maybe I can share a video in a link to this video if I find the link. But someone more learned than I in constitutional stuff or in law sort of stuff was able to find that the police are not able, they have no right to issue fines and infringement notices or whatever for the people not wearing masks and going and congregating in the CBD. They can't do it. So, but anyway, so what we've got is people going in there with the extreme view that it's all too much. It's all been too heavy-handed by the government, but then they're clashing with police. Then you've got the majority of police that are going in there and they're just doing their job. Remember, the police are between a rock and a hard place because they are employed by the government. Okay, so they are duty-bound to enforce the law. However, there's a bit of a grey area here because some of what they're enforcing is not law. And they must have been told that it is. But we can't blame them for it. Okay, there are a select few of the police out there that are certainly on a power trip, most definitely, but that's a minority of police. I would like to at least put it in here that the police still need to be respected. Now, if they are on the wrong side of this, most of them probably don't know it and can't be blamed for it. I'm certainly not going to blame them for the position that they are in. As I said, there are a select few that are doing the wrong thing, are overreaching, and probably know that they are. But the majority are not doing that. So what we've then got, following on from that, is now we've got this call for a boycott of Blue Ribbon Day. Now in Australia, I'm not sure if you've got anything like that in America, but in Australia we have a Blue Ribbon Foundation. And as I understand it, that foundation is designed to take care of people who work within the police force and who have, I don't know, PTSD or they've been injured or, it's to help them and their families. That's what I understand it to be. And that's, to assist police that have come off second best from doing their job, serving the community, serving the rule of law. So what we've then got is we've got these extreme people who are advocating for a boycott of Blue Ribbon Day in response to the way that all police, but a select few police, have been doing the wrong thing. The majority have been doing the right thing, but they've been following, government orders. They're following what they believe or have been told is law, which some of it is not. And then some of them have been obviously doing far too much, and I've shared that in a video where there was an overreach of a couple of police officers, and that stuff has been going on. But all of these things are minority amounts. They're small groups, small clusters that don't represent the whole group of any one group. And yet, based on these extreme views and these extreme ideas, you got this extreme rhetoric and these hard and fast responses to try and combat what isn't actually a big issue until it's made to be one, and then it becomes one. So if you can follow all of that, it's all very confusing, but you got to understand that that's what the media is grabbing a hold of each and every time. The majority of what's being said here in the mainstream media is rubbish, because these things are occurring, but they're not occurring to the level that they're trying to say they are. And all along the wayside, you've got people who are legitimately sick, pardon me, from COVID. The majority of anyone that's had it has gotten better from it. And I imagine hundreds of thousands have had it and don't know they've had it. Can't verify that, but would that surprise anybody? So then, but we've got to grab a hold of the fact that, we're all going to die of it. And then you got the government that goes hard and fast and says, right, we've got to lock everything down. Then you've got people who've lost their jobs or are in the process of losing their jobs. You've got a government that's saying, hey, we've got to have COVID passports. Then you've got people rejecting that idea and going into the CBD and rebelling against the government. But rebelling against the government, they've missed the point, and they go and they instead start attacking police. Then you've got the majority of police that are there and they're doing the best that they can. You've got a select few that make that look bad and make them look bad, leave a bad taste in the mouth for anyone that's had anything to do with police in that way. That gets hijacked. And then you've got people saying, based on the actions of all the police, now we should boycott Blue Ribbon Day. Can you understand how ridiculous a whole story and a whole scenario can get when the focus is the extreme view, the extreme angle, and that extreme angle is applied liberally across the lot, as if it's the whole story? The truth of the matter is, most of this could have been avoided. The reason it wasn't avoided is because it was never attempted to be avoided. The scenario that is going on right now is being engineered. It's wanted to happen. And the problem is, the majority are swallowing this story hood, line, and sinker. Why? I really can't understand how all of this stuff has managed to completely blindside the majority of people. I don't believe in it being a coincidence that I've spoken about this stuff for more than a year, and it just keeps moving in the direction that I always knew that it was going to. And yet I look at it and go, gee, How is no one else seeing this stuff? My only encouragement to you all is use this and use these. Don't go using this and just trying to tell a story about, I heard this and I saw this. Actually look so you can see. Actually listen so you can hear. Because it's all in front of us. We can listen to what they say on the television and on the radio, and we can discern through that stuff, surely. I mean, okay. I want to use another example, please, if I might. In the last few days, I've been listening to the news on the radio just to try to hear the wording that's being used, because a couple of my friends on Facebook have used terms like no one in Australia has died of COVID after having been immunised. Now, I've been told that from a number of people, and what I keep hearing on the radio is a number of people have died in the last 24 hours with COVID, a number of which were not vaccinated. Now, if you hear that and you don't grab a hold of it and think through the language that's being used, you just go, oh, okay, another 6 people have died of COVID, not with, of, right? But the words were used on the radio, in the news. 6 people with COVID have died. Person hears, because they're not listening properly, person hears 6 people have died of COVID in the last 6 days, in the last 24 hours. Right? That's not what was said, but what's heard, because it's just old hat now. It's just drummed in. It's just sort of washes over. Oh, another 6 people died of COVID. No, 6 people with COVID have died. And 2 of those 6 had not had any vaccinations yet. Right? It's imperative that we listen to the wording that is being used, because they're not lying. They're just telling the story in such a way that they don't make it overly obvious. Anyway, I might finish off with a clip, and I'll play it at the very end so that you can hear it for yourself. But came across this clip the other day of, and I don't know who he is, but to me, without knowing who he is, where he's from and what his background is, it just, I couldn't think of it other than it being a true clown effect. And it's going to be the clown effect for this video today. But this guy was talking about, he said something like, so you're an anti-vaxxer in Melbourne, or you're an anti-vaxxer in Sydney. I can't remember whether it was Melbourne or Sydney. But anyway, so automatically, assumption made, someone who says they do not want the vaccine is an anti-vaxxer. Wrong answer. That's not true. It's disingenuous to the highest order. But anyway, that's how it starts. And then, of course, he goes on and he says, look, you're not being discriminated against, because you're not being discriminated based on your religion or based on your skin color or based on any sort of innate characteristic of you. Okay. The problem with that is the very word discrimination. Now, I think I've spoken in a very, very early video about the difference between discrimination and prejudice. And the convenience of the word discrimination allows people to get around this whole issue and say, well, look, discrimination is based on this. Discrimination it covers all of these things. However, prejudice is the correct word for everything. Discrimination is a choice. You discriminated against one thing because you selected another thing. Now, it can be a person or a thing. Prejudice, that is for no other reason than you selected a characteristic, or you just had some preconceived bias and therefore you made a decision, and it has nothing to do, that is the issue. And you've got that term is the correct term to be used in the video that I'll share after. It's prejudice, and it most certainly is a prejudiced viewpoint to say that based on the fact that you selected not to have something done to you, therefore you won't be allowed to go and do something. It's prejudice. The word is not discrimination. And it most certainly isn't okay. But he justifies it in the way that he does. And I might just also finish off with, he speaks about helmets for riding bicycles. He speaks about wearing a seatbelt when you drive a car, and suggests that being a health or safety measure is on the same plane, the same level, the same as having a immunization, having a vaccination. And that's rubbish. And anyone with a brain knows that it's rubbish. And I'll leave you with this final bit, and then obviously I'll just have the clip following this. But I want to leave you with this. There was a professor at a university, and he had all of his students write their names on balloons and put them all into the room. And then he gave everybody 5 minutes to go into that room and try to find their balloon. However, unfortunately, of course, no one was actually able to find their own balloon. He then gave them the instruction, you now have 5 minutes to go and locate the owner of the balloon that you are holding. After 5 minutes, each and every person had their own balloon. The explanation the professor gave was, if you're out there searching for only your own happiness, you're pretty much unlikely to find it. However, if your goal is to try and help bring happiness and help other people find their happiness, well, along the way, you're most likely going to find yours as well. And I'll leave you with that. Please try to do everything you can to keep in touch with everybody that you can. We're still doing it tough here, not being able to go and do the things that we've certainly would have been taking for granted in the years gone by. I know I certainly was at that time. But we are all in this together, regardless of whether the government's along for the ride helping us really. We are, and we can make the selection, make the choice to get in contact with those that we care about. So let's show that care to who we can. A big shout out to all of the American viewers. Thank you once again for watching this video. Thank you for all of the regular viewers and subscribers to this channel. I really do appreciate your presence here as well. Thank you for joining me once again. And until next time, take care. I'll see you in the next videos, and God bless. Bye for now.